Hi, thanks for joining me. This is Jen Bulka, memory therapist at mymemorypal.com in Silicon Valley. Today's episode is going to be going a little bit deeper in the constellation of memory stars that I referred to in the last episode. There are a lot of things listed under the constellation of memory stars because they are all the different components that have to come together to not only store information so that it's easier to access later, but already accessing what you know now. So this will be one of many episodes going a little bit deeper with each of the things under constellation of memory stars, which I will get into in a moment. But as always, let's first make sure we're doing best practices for getting the most out of the session. I would encourage you all to turn off all your cognitive disruptors, your attention distractors, your notifications on your phone and your laptop and your vibrations on your phone. Have a dedicated notebook for this episode and date each page and title it. This one would be Constellation of Memory Stars. And really revisit your notes within 24 hours so that you do have a memory of what was important out of this episode, especially in case there's actually something that needs clarification. And I'm happy to answer questions if you send an email to mymemorypal@gmail.com. Also, schedule time in your calendar for your practice. Otherwise, new habits probably won't happen very easily. It is helpful to have the same quadrant of the day for your practice. I don't know why, but the studies show your brain will be much happier and much more productive. And then in order to remember those practice sessions, put a reminder in your phone. And while the alarms don't necessarily go beyond 24 hours, you can set a repeat notification in your phone for every day or every other day. You can also put a reminder in your Google Calendar, and you can use an auditory. I think with the latest version, you can use an auditory component to ping you so that you know that it's popped up on your calendar. Okay, let's get started. So, how do we store information productively? How do we access information productively? We need a lot of tools in order to be able to do that. And so oftentimes when folks first start their sessions with me here at My Memory Pal, they don't quite understand why I'm going through peripheral things that affect your memory, like having good cognitive fitness with sleep and diet, etc., and exercise. But really, in order to have, especially as we age, good access to our memory, we need to make sure that our self-regulation, our body, our disposition, our mindset is really in a positive space. So we go through a lot of those things in the beginning of these kinds of sessions in therapy, and then we get to very specific things that do help. There are tactics and strategies. So I think it's really important to understand what makes a good memory. What makes it fluid? How is it easier to recall information you have? How is it easier to store information so that it is easier to access later? And that constellation of memory stars that I talked about in the last video is really the component. There are many different things that have to come together, including things you would never even think about, like your sleep, like your energy level. So I'm going to go through again the constellation of stars, and then I'm going to really just focus today on visualization. I think it's really important, especially if you're a real left brain type person, that we talk about how visualization aids your memory. I find, and I know I've said this before, I find a lot of people here in Silicon Valley who have these brilliant left brains, but unfortunately, they don't work so well in the left brain for creating the visualization that really aids in the long term for memory. And it's really important as you get older. So the constellation of stars, it's not exclusive to this, but these are some of them. Colors, sound, taste, feel, texture, mood. Let me just stop before I keep going on the list. These are things that help you to remember a memory, or help you to store a memory so it's easier to access later. Emotion, oh, that's a huge one. Self-regulation, am I feeling good? Or am I feeling a little afraid or stressed? Have I been doing too much work today? Or am I feeling relaxed and in a learning state? Environmental context. No, I can remember she was sitting in a room with a pink sweater and a red couch. Understanding what in your past connects to what you're trying to memorize now and inferring how you might use it in the future. Using all sorts of connectors. Okay, we called them in previous videos intermediaries. How do you use different connectors such as associations or contrast or cause and effect or various aspects of figurative language? And we'll get into that in a little bit, using metaphors or idioms. How does perspective enter into the equation? What are you thinking about what the other person might be thinking, and how you can relate it to what you're trying to memorize or access information for? What is your perspective? Those are really strong pieces that fall into emotion and attention, which we'll talk about later. Interest. Do you have good attention to the task? Is your interest really not there? Are you highly motivated with emotion because you have a test tomorrow? Or even if you're not interested in the subject matter, so there's different kinds of motivation. Interest is a really big piece. Hormones. Are you in a place where your hormones are giving you good juju? Or are you in a place where your hormones are giving you the signal like it's time to rest and I'm not in a great place because I'm feeling anxious or tired or fatigued or nervous, you know? And then, of course, as I mentioned before, cognitive fitness is huge. Sleep, diet. Am I feeding my brain the things it needs to be fed so that indeed I am in a good learning state for storing this information or accessing this information? Okay, let's talk about visualization. That's the big one today, imagery and visualization. There is a tool that I use, and you are welcome to email me at mymemorypal@gmail.com, and I'm happy to send you an electronic version of this. It's called My Memory Pal Storyboard, and it's one way to start to practice and get yourself into a mode of which you start visualizing more, especially if creating pictures in your head is something that is difficult for you. This is a very helpful tool. So, you can imagine storyboarding like they do in showbiz, which is with a derivative of the term. You can create one frame, which is kind of just a picture. Oh, well, it could be, let's just say, something out of your photo album of a happy picture of a time gone by with your family on vacation. That would be a stagnant picture or an inanimate scene. Or you can do a frame by frame, which creates a little movie. And the frame by frame is really good because it allows you to weave that into story weaving. So you can decide, is this a stagnant, just a picture? Or is this a picture that has moving parts? The moving parts are the frame by frame, which is actually what storyboarding is. So let's just take something very, very simple and try to work through it and use some words to help visualize. Just take wanting to organize your backpack, okay? You're getting ready for a day trip or an overnight trip or a weekend trip and you want to pack. So let's imagine that we're going to do the frame by frame, and let's start with creating a movie in our head using prompt words. What kind of mood do I want to be in when I start this activity? I want to have a lot of energy. So I could see myself drinking a cup of coffee and getting up and like getting the cheerleading attitude on. Okay, time to pack. Let's get our brain organizing moment on and get into cognitive fitness. Here we go. What do I need? We're going hiking. We're going canoeing. It might rain, and it also could be really hot at some point. So now I've got the 4 things that I need to remember because I got to be prepared for all weather, right? Okay, so what does each one of those categories mean? What do I look like? My next frame is going to be, oh, this is what I look like when it's raining. Oh, this is what I look like when I'm canoeing. Oh, this is what I look like when I'm hiking. Oh, this is what I look like when I'm done hiking and it's hot and I'm in shorts ready to dive into the next frame, which might be the water. So you really want to just start creating a little movie in your head. You can use sound. Oh, I can hear the fish flapping. Ah, I can hear the birds chirping while I'm hiking. Oh, I can hear the rock and roll music playing while I'm packing. Just different things to help you aid in creating the little picture in your head. Scene by scene, frame by frame. That is your storyboarding. When you visualize that simple, and let's just call it 4 or 5 frames. Don't overcomplicate it because you don't want it to take you forever. But start to create a movie and see how that feels. And if you say, well, what should I do it on? And I can't really think of the movie because you're really left-brained. Okay, let's just sit down, pick anything. You want to remember 3 things at the market. You want to remember coffee, bread, a certain kind of bread for toast in the morning, and avocado for avocado toast. How can you put those 3 things together using words that will create taste, that will create movement, that will create an order? Oh, maybe first I put the bread down, then I cut the avocado, then I scoop it out, then I put it on the toast, then I grab a cup of coffee and I drink my coffee and eat my toast, whatever it is. Think about frame by frame. Maybe it's I'm starting making the coffee first in my movie, and then I'm making the toast so I can drink the coffee while I'm eating the toast. So there's lots of good ways to create movies in your mind. Not so easy for some people and totally easy for other people. But here's the key. Once you've created 4 or 5 storyboards or scenes, then you really want to revisit it at least 2 or 3 times. Don't just say, okay, I did that, and walk away. You got to say, okay, 15 minutes later, I'm going to set the alarm on my phone. 15 minutes later, I rehearse it again. I think if you do that at least 2 or 3 times, by the time you get to the market, you won't forget the 3 things you need at the market. What are they again? That's right. Coffee, bread, avocado. Okay, try the simple exercise. Remember me until next time. This is Jen Volka at mymemorypal.com in Silicon Valley. Thanks for listening.